So very good. So the Gemara now is talking about past the kono. As we said, there's two. There's the corner of your head, and then there's the corner of your beard. There are two corners of your head. There are five corners of your beard. And as a result of that, there's two. The Mishnah says a person could get two sets of malkut for the corner of the beard. There's this corner and there's this corner, and there's a possibility of getting five sets of lashes for the five corners that are right over here. And the Gemara and the question, it's very clear. The two corners over here are pretty clear, but the question exactly where are the five corners on the face? And a lot of discussions. Where are the five corners? And some say one's right here, one's here, here, and one's here. But exactly, so it's a matter of dispute. So therefore, we don't use a razor any part of the face. Some say it's like by the ends of the mustache is the corners. So we don't use a razor on any part of our face. So our Gemara now, morning, Jaime. Beautiful, good to see you. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Rabbi.
Morning. So we're now, the Gemara now is identifying on 20b, on the 20b3, in the article on the first column, the left side. V'hamashchit pat zekono. Someone who destroys the corner of his beard, and that's accomplished through a razor. So that there's a machloket in the Mishnah if that would also apply to using a tweezer. One opinion says apply to tweezer, the Mishnah, but the halacha says, we paskin that if you're allowed to use a scissor or electric shaver, which works like a scissor because it's not going directly on the blade is not going directly on the skin because you're using a screen. There's a screen of the shaver which separates between what's inside the shaver. And now the Gemara is talking about someone destroying using a razor. That's what our Mishnah, the first opinion of the Mishnah, is talking about. So the Gemara says, "Hamashchit pat zekono," someone who destroys the corner of his beard. So the Gemara now says, what's called Tana Rabbanan? So now there's a Braita that explains what is the corner of the where is this corner? What is this corner? So the Gemara says, Tana pas zekono is the sof zekono. That's the end, the different corners of your beard. And ve'ezel sof zekono, what is the corners of your beard? Is shiboles zekono, the pointed end of your beard. Where the commentaries explain that the facial hair, or perhaps some of the skin, protrudes in this area because it's a corner, and therefore that's the place where the Torah prohibits on your beard. Meaning to say, the Torah did not prohibit your whole face. Your whole face, the Torah, and your whole chin and under your chin, the Torah did not prohibit all those places. Specifically the corner, the Torah prohibited. And where is exactly that corner that the Torah is talking about, we said is a matter of great dispute to identify where exactly on the face are these corners that we're referring to. So what we do is, because some say they're the corners by the mustache, some say there's two corners here and two corners by this area over here by the mustache. I consider also two corners. Some say there's two corners are over here, like if I feel by the bone, and then there's some and this area over here and then over here. So it's a matter of a great dispute exactly what exactly, and therefore we don't use a razor on any spot of the face. Tana Rabbanan. Now the Gemara goes, we said that if you make a scrape, if someone scrapes themselves, if someone passed away, and to show the sign of mourning, someone would scrape themselves. And the way the Minchas Chinuch brings down, it's any size scrape. it would be violating this prohibition. The Gemara does not discuss the size of the Gemara did not discuss the size, how much a person, how the size of the scrape, right? So therefore, it would seem that any cut would be in violation. We spoke about when we spoke about making a bald spot. If a dead person, if someone passes away, what's the size of that bald spot? The Torah says you can't make a bald spot in sign of mourning. We have discussions. The 2 hairs is a sign of size of a bean. We have all different opinions, but the Gemara does not make any discussion, warning Adam, regarding what's the size of the cut that the Torah is prohibiting. Right, exactly. This prohibition is referring to specifically to mourning, but in halacha, many will say, the Sefer Chinuch says, it would still prohibit for a person to cut themselves for any reason. But this prohibition that the Torah is talking about is specific to mourning. And the question is, what's behind this prohibition? Obviously, one of the ideas is the person has to realize the same idea that we said by not making a bald spot and pulling out one's hair because of a loss of a relative, that a person has to realize that he still has God. God is still here for the person, and the person who passed away is going to Olam Haba. It's not like it's over. It's not like it's this, and therefore there shouldn't be. This is one of Abraham. It's considered excessive, overdoing the mourning. That's how. The pasuk is there's 2 different pasukim. There is a pasuk that says you can't round the head, and then there's similar areas. We'll take a look at some of the pasukim. There's a pasuk that says you can't round the head, and in the same pasuk it says you can't make a scrape. On the same pasuk says you can't make a bald spot, you can't cut the corners of your beard, and you can't scrape yourself. All in one pasuk. And what the common denominator of not pulling out one's hair, and it's interesting that 2 of the 3 are specific to mourning, meaning making the bald spot that the Torah is talking about and cutting oneself is specific to the mourning problem, meaning as a result of a dead person. It's very good. And the reason why the Torah prohibits these type of this idea, and also it lists all 3 together in one pasuk. 3 prohibitions: don't cut oneself, don't pull out one's hair, and also the Torah says don't cut the corners of your beard. 2 of the 3 are talking specifically in case of a mourning situation. Someone lost a relative. Don't cut oneself, don't pull out the hair. Cutting the corner of the beard has nothing to do with mourning. Person can't cut the corner, can't ruin the corner of your beard, even morning, Michael. Even if it's not because of mourning. Today, nobody could 365 days a year, a person can't cut the beard. But the Torah groups all 3 prohibitions together because I think what Jaime is saying. The common denominator with the Sefer.
Rabbi, you can't cut yourself regardless of mourning or not. Person, it's also asur to cut themselves. Anyway.
That's true. Mark, that's what the Sefer Chinuch says. The person's not allowed to cut themselves anyways, but it's not this prohibition, Mark. This prohibition is not coming to tell us you can't. When the Torah says this prohibition of cutting oneself, the Torah is specifically talking about cutting oneself for a loss of a relative. There might be a difference.
Is that to say that if someone cut themselves under the case of a mourning, they'd get lashes, and someone who cut themselves that is not mourning would not get lashes?
Right. Because I don't think there is a specific pasuk in the Torah, a specific warning. Meaning, in order to give a guy lashes, there has to be a specific warning Adam, in the Torah to say, don't do this. There is, I don't recall in the 613 mitzvot of the Torah, if you look, I don't recall in the Sefer Chinuch, the Torah didn't specifically tell us, tell us you can't go ahead and hurt yourself. The Torah, we learned it out we able to figure it out from other laws, one Ilya, that there should be a prohibition. The way the Sefer Chinuch says, if I'll read to you the language of the Sefer Chinuch. The Sefer Chinuch is a mitzvah 467. Sefer Chinuch is an amazing sefer that he wrote on mitzvot, the mitzvot of the Torah. And he wrote it for his son and his son's friends. He wrote it maybe 700 years ago. He didn't, instead of hanging out on the street corners on Shabbat, they should rather discuss which mitzvahs in which parsha. And he was unique. He codified the mitzvot according to the weekly portion. That's how until his time, everybody would group the mitzvot by the do's of the Torah and the don'ts of the Torah, the aseh and the lo aseh. And he kind of according to the parsha of the week. So he writes over here. He says the first thing is which I want to connect what Jaime was talking about Avodah Zarah. The three things what they have in common: cutting oneself, pulling out one's hair, and shaving with a razor. These were things that the way the Chinuch understands, and most probably is basing on the Rambam. These are all things that were done connected with Avodah Zarah. That it connected with Avodah Zarah, with idol worship. They would, like we saw the priests. They would shave their. And we saw about the corners of the head. They would shave the corners of the head. We showed the pictures. Even today, in some Christian practices, they shave the corner of their head. We saw whatever it's called, kansho or ansho, whatever it was called. There's a certain name for it. We said last week, and it's also the sign of connection to Avodah Zarah by using a razor blade on the beard. For some people, that was a common thing, and also pulling out, making bald spots and these type of things, and cutting oneself. He says we shouldn't do anything similar to the people that worship idols. And this is something that was also done when people would cut themselves in connection with the idols. But the Chinuch says the following to address Mark's point. The Chinuch says that the Gemara says that this is referring to don't make a wound in one's body for a person because someone passed away. Mikol Makom. And or some people don't cut yourself. We're going to see in the Gemara either for a dead person or for Avodah Zarah. They would cut themselves. Maybe it was a sign that they would give themselves for the idol, right? They cut themselves, taking blood from their bodies. Good morning. But nevertheless, if a person cuts himself out of anger because his house fell down, or his ship sunk, which was a more common problem, most probably in the old days. What? So he says, even though it is disgusting and it's forbidden, Mark, he says, he goes on record, he said it's forbidden, nevertheless, you're not violating this prohibition. Ain't chi of lav there. There's no lashes. Like we said, there are many things in the Torah that are forbidden, but there's no lashes. So the fact that there's no lashes doesn't mean it's not forbidden. But to get lashes for cutting oneself, according to Sefer Chinuch, is only if someone cuts himself as a sign of mourning. So that's what in a case of mourning, when someone lost a close relative. So that's what our Gemara today is coming to discuss, exactly this question. If someone cuts himself because his ship sunk or his house fell, would he get lashes or not? So that, what do you say? Shaving with a right, exactly. Shaving with using a razor is 365. But so why does the Torah group it? Why is it grouped with those two other prohibitions which have to do with mourning? So we said the common denominator, they're all connected with idol worship. These all three prohibitions have some connection with idol worship, even though they all three don't have to do with mourning. Only 2 out of the 3 have to do with mourning. So now the Gemara says, in the bottom of 20b3 in the left column, Tana Rabbanan, V'seret. The Torah says, don't make a cut. Yochal afilu sarat al beito shenafal. You might think if a person would go ahead and make a cut because his house fell down, or al sinato chetava b'yam, or his ship that sunk in the sea. Talmud loma lenefesh. So the Torah is very specific. The Torah says that the prohibition of cutting oneself is lenefesh. Lenefesh, because a neshama, a soul has left because there was a death, and as a result of that, that's why he's going ahead and he's cutting himself. So Eina Chayav, he's only violating this prohibition that he'll get lashes, Ella al meit bilvad, only if someone passed away. But now the Gemara continues. Uminayin l'misaret chamesh shritot al meit echad. How do we know if a person cut himself 5 times on one mate? Which some explain, just like the Gemara explained, making 5 bull spots. If he goes again, he gets one warning, and he goes ahead and let's say he cuts himself. Let's say he has sharp nails. Morning, Morris, he has sharp nails, and he cuts himself 5 cuts at one time simultaneously. There's one warning, but he does 5 cuts at one time. How do we know he's going to get 5 sets of lashes? But so for this one act, so the Gemara says, Talmud loma viseret. Viseret, and some understand viseret, the word the vav is extra. It could have said seret lenefesh, a cut. Viseret is including lechayav al kol srita. Every cut that a person cuts himself will get a separate lashes. The same thing as the hair, exactly. The Gemara said before about the hair. He puts certain type of lotion on his fingers that will hair remover, and as a result, someone passed away, and he puts on 5 fingers. The Gemara says, and he puts them simultaneously on his head. He gets one. Don't make this bald spot at a sign of mourning for a dead person. He does it in one shot. He gets 5 sets of lashes. Now, the Gemara says. Now the Gemara continues. Minayin. Now he comes Rabbi Yossi on that. Rabbi Yossi says an amazing chidush. He understands Minayin l'misaret srita achad al chamisha meitim. How do we know if a person goes ahead and he cuts himself one time, but he cut himself one time as a result there were 5 people that died, and let's say this terrible tragedy, 5 people died, and then he says in honor of the 5 people that passed away, because 5 people passed away, he's going to cut himself one time for all 5 people. And he obviously had to say it in front of the witnesses, like we explained last time. How do you know he's doing it for all 5 people? He's cutting himself. He's being warned, don't do it. He takes out the knife. He's about to cut himself. The witnesses say, don't do it. We're warning you. And he says, I'm doing it because of these 5 people that got killed. He wants to cut himself. So Rabbi Yossi understands that he's chayav 5 sets of lashes for this one act of cutting himself one time. Why does it? I'll tell you more. We would not, on its own, we would not, without a special one act, and it can be chayav 5 times. Why should he be chayav 5? If 50 people died and he does one cut for 50 people, he's going to get 50 sets of lashes. Now, how can we say that? Mark is right. If we would not have an extra pasuk, if we wouldn't have any extra pasuk in the Torah, meaning when the Torah says don't make a cut, we would say he gets one. If he does one cut for 5 people, he gets 1 set of lashes, right? But Rabbi Yossi understands. Now, the fact that it says Rabbi Yossi Omer, the question we have to see whether halacha is like him or not. Let's see if there's a letter of the Rambam on his comment or not. Okay. The answer is it's a kasuf, right? There's certain mitzvot in the Torah that you would not know by yourself, and there's certain mitzvot you would know by yourself, right? Honoring your parents is something that or there's certain things that you understand, so things you don't understand. A guy makes a small cut for a person who passed away. So we're going to give the guy 39 lashes making a small cut. You We would not know that without the Torah telling us that. But now the Torah tells us, fine. So the same way the Torah, so then that now comes, that's stay tuned, but here it comes. So now the Gemara says, here he has a special word in the Pasuk. He says, Talmud Loma Lin Nefesh. He says there's an extra word in the Torah. He says, V'seret Lin Nefesh. The Torah did not have to write the word Lin Nefesh. The Torah could have wrote, the Torah could have just written Seret, a cut. A cut in your body. You should not make a cut in your body. But why does the Torah go out of its way and say lenefesh? But why does it say the extra word lenefesh? The Gemara is saying at this point there's an extra word on the table. What's the extra word? Lenefesh. And the Gemara is going to question why is it extra. The Gemara is going to show you in a minute that the Torah did not have to write the word a scrape for a dead person. We already know that we already know that the issue of scraping has to do with a dead person. You told us somewhere else, the Gemara is going to show us. So therefore, why does the Torah have to tell us again, v'seret lenefesh? You cannot make a scrape for a dead person. So the Rabbi Yossi says the Torah is teaching you that for each dead person that the scrape is made for, there is a separate lashes for each and every person. From this extra word, this extra word teaches us, you're right, without this extra word, we would have said one scrape for 5, for people, 50 people is one set of lashes. But the fact that the Torah writes the word lenefesh for every person that the scrape was intended for, that one scrape was intended for, that there's a separate lashes for each and every person that he scraped himself for. And it seems like from the language of the Mishnah that seems like that is the halacha. Yes. Right. For the nefesh, it doesn't, it refers to the person who passed. The word nefesh is not means the death of the departed soul. This meaning the cut. It's not on the not the cutter's body. It's referring to the nefesh, the neshama of the person who left. It's seret. Someone's making a cut because there was a nefesh, a person's soul. A person died. That's why. So for as many people you're making that cut for, that's what he's saying, that the Torah is including. Just like, listen, using a razor on your beard, you also would not have known that there's a problem unless the Torah tells us, right? Certain things you need the Torah to tell us. So that's what the Gemara says. But the Gemara says, but the Gemara says, what do you mean? You're telling me that the word nefesh is extra? You're telling me that the word nefesh is extra, and therefore because it's extra, it's teaching us this law? But we already said that nefesh teaches us something else. Nefesh is the thing that taught us, is the word that taught us that the only time there's lashes if it's a cut is done for a departed soul. So therefore, how could you tell me that the word nefesh is teaching me for each and every person that you had in mind when you made the cut, for every departed soul that you made the cut for, there's a separate lashes, but the word nefesh is coming to tell us something else. It's coming to tell us that the case of the Torah, when the Torah says that if you make a scrape, there's lashes, is specifically if it was for a departed soul, not for a ship that sunk, not for the stock market that went down. It's only specifically for a departed soul. So how could you tell me that this word is extra to teach us this new law if it's already used for something else? Is that clear? That's the Gemara. Mark likes the question. It's not extra. That's the Gemara's question. Jake, clear? So the Gemara, that's the Gemara's question. We already used this for the guy's house that fell down. That the person's ship that sunk in the sea, we already said that the word nefesh is telling us there is no lashes for such a thing. The Torah, according to the Sefer Chinuch, forbids it, but there's no lashes if someone does such a thing for a financial loss. So, and that's learned out because the Torah was very specific. The Torah gave a specific case. The Torah didn't just say, don't make a cut on your body. The Torah didn't say, don't cut yourself. The Torah says, don't cut yourself if someone passed away, which is Torah is telling us that that this lashes, this prohibition, this warning of the Torah is specific to as a sign of someone passed away. So how do you know that there's a separate lashes for every person that he had in mind with that cut? That's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara answers, Mabruk, we're now on Chaf Aleph Omen Aleph, 21a. We got to start having the planning committee for the CM before we know it. Okay, but so the Gemara says, Shava Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi holds, Srita v'gedida achati. The Torah writes the prohibition of Srita and Gedida once in Vayikra and once in Devarim. And he holds that they're both the same prohibition. They're both referring to scraping oneself. And since they're both referring to the same prohibition, uktiv hatam lemeit. And over there, when it describes the prohibition of scraping oneself, the Torah already told us and taught us that the prohibition of scraping oneself, cutting oneself, the case. What's the case that the Torah is talking about? Lameit. The Torah already went on record. The Torah already identified the case of what. Where is their lashes? Where is when it's as a result of someone passed away. So once the Torah already told us that, so the Torah did not have to tell us repeat that again. The Torah doesn't have to repeat itself on some of the details. You want to repeat the prohibition. Mishnah Torah Devarim repeats. Sometimes we repeat some things. Moshe reviewed the Torah, but when he repeated it, he usually gave an extra lesson. He taught him something new on the deal as well. But
Rabbi.
Yes, Michael.
Today is the time that Moshe Rabbeinu did read Devarim to Bnei Yisrael from Shvat to Zayin Adar. He read it for 37 days.
Very good.
For 37 days.
We should also review the
away.
Devarim. Very good, beautiful. So and happy to Shvat, everybody. So therefore, we already know that the prohibition is talking about a mate. So why does the Torah, right, Mark? Why does the Torah need to tell you again lenefesh? There's no need for it. So that's what Rabbi Yossi says. That's why it's extra. Since it's not necessary to tell us that it's talking about for a departed soul, because you already told us that the case of scraping is for a departed soul. So by repeating this detail, it's teaching us a new law. It's teaching us the law that it's for every person that he scraped himself for, that he had one scrape, for every departed soul that he had that scrape was intended for, it's a separate lashes for each and every one. Okay. That concludes that point. That's how halacha would come out. Because if you look, I want everyone look at the Mishnah on Chaf Amanal. Turn back to 20a, right? 20a in the Mishnah, right? If you look, it's to where the lines get wide. If you look at the second line of the Mishnah, everyone sees the second line of the Mishnah, 20a. So it says, "V'hasoreit srita achat al hameit," right? The Mishnah states, if someone cuts himself, everyone have it in the Mishnah? 20a, we went back a little bit. Second line in the Mishnah, where the lines get wide. The second line, V'hasoreit srita achat al hameit chayav. If someone scrapes himself one time for a mate, he's chayav. One cut for a dead person, he gets lashes. Sarat srita achat. If he cuts himself one time, al chamisha meitim, because there are 5 people that passed away. That's the case that we're talking about in the Gemara, right? Or chamesh sritot al meit achat, or 5 scrapes on one person that passed away. What does the Mishnah say? Chayav al kol achat. He's obligated on each and every one separate lashes. Now, if you look on that line,
like Rabbi Yossi, that's what Rabbi Yossi says.
That's Rabbi Yossi, exactly. Now, if you look on the word sarat, you see in the second line, sarat, there's a little zayin. See that little zayin? That zayin takes you to the top left corner of the page, which is called the Ein Mishpat V'ner Mitzvah, the eye of the law. And over there he says, Zion, he says, Maimin Perik Yud Beis Nuchs Avodah Zarah Halacha Yud Beis. He sends you to the Rambam that's found in the Rambam. So usually when the Rambam quotes it, that would be the halacha. So I just wanted to show you that seems to be the law. And I have over here in the back on my Gemara, they quote over here the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam on this that this is the halacha. Now the Rambam, interesting, says regarding this, the Rambam discusses regarding the warning, but we're not going to go into that. But the halacha applies. This halacha applies. Okay, let's go back to our Gemara. Now the Gemara continues. We are now on Chaf Aleph Amen Aleph 21a. I mean, what the Torah uses two different rows. So that's what the Gemara is going to get into that right now. Is there differences between Gedidah? The Torah uses two different words to describe the scraping, right? The way the Gemara is understanding now that the Torah is using two different words to describe the same act, the prohibition of scraping. One, the Torah uses the word Teret, and one, the Torah uses the word Gedidah. What's that again? Maybe. Right, so maybe the Torah emphasizes the nefesh, maybe connects more to the neshama. So maybe the Torah is emphasizing he's cutting for the neshama, emphasizing the fact that the person's neshama passed away, not just the physical body passed away. Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel says, Hamisarei bikli. If someone scrapes himself with a kli, instead of using his fingers with his nails to cut himself, Moni Yehuda, he uses a knife, some sort of instrument to cut himself, chayav. He's obligated. Now, what is he saying? What's the chidush? What is he telling me? That if he uses it, what? Directly. He takes a knife and he... What do you mean by indirectly? What? No, right. Your hand, a knife is like you. It's just an extension of the person. That's right. So the Gemara says, so if you look at the Rashi, Hamisaret b'kli chayav. The Rashi is the first top line. The Rashi, the last word of the line is Hamisaret. Everyone have it? Hamisaret b'kli chayav. Havade pshita. Everybody knows the Kuliyama, the Ikigedida, when the Torah uses the word Gedida that Jake was referring to, the usage of the word, on the second line from the top in the Rashi. Mashma bikli. The word Gedida, when the Torah uses the word, don't make it Gedida. It sounds like Galida, sounds like ice cream. Don't make it Gedida. Next time you buy some ice cream, think of this Gemara, okay? When you think of Gedida, you go to Israel, buy some ice cream, say, hey, I learned about Gedida. There's a prohibition. Someone can't cut themselves. You think about a mitzvah, talking Torah, right? So when the Ikigedida Masha Bikli, the prohibition of when the Torah says don't make a gedida on your body, don't make a gedida as a sign of mourning for a dead person, that's using an instrument. The ikka srita, but the word srita, which also means don't cut yourself, is usually referring to mashma biyad. Is by using your hand, by using your bare hand, your fingernails, your own hands to cut oneself. The Kama Shmuel. Now Shmuel has this big chidush. Get ready for Shmuel's chidush. Hamisaret b'kli. If someone uses a utensil al hamet, he uses a utensil on a mate. Chayav. He is chayav. He's obligated. Now, it's obvious. He didn't use the normal word. Usually, when you use a utensil, the wording is usually megadeh, it's gedida. But he used the word srita. What did he teach? Lashmina. The shem srita shayach b'kli. That the word srita, the Torah says the word seret. Seret, its general usage is by using one's bare hand. but he's teaching you that it also encompasses, it also includes a utensil. And by teaching us that he's telling us if a person uses a utensil on his body, he's violating two prohibitions of the Torah. And we're going to give him two sets of lashes for that one act. He's going to be one. He's going to say to him, sir, there is out of the 613 mitzvot, according to this opinion, there's one pasuk that says you're not allowed to make a gedidah in your body, and there's another pasuk that says you're not allowed to make a seret in your body. And they both mean scraping, they both mean cutting. And he's saying that even though the word seret usually refers to using one's hand, but it also refers to using a utensil, and therefore it comes out that the Torah is writing two prohibitions if a person uses a knife or anything sharp to cut himself, anything, at least for utensils, anything besides his own body. We'll see about his own hand. We'll see if that's also two prohibitions. But at least at this point, Shmuel is saying, is going on record, that if a person uses a knife on his body to cut himself as a sign of mourning, he is violating two, with one act, there are two prohibitions of the Torah, and therefore he holds he would get two sets of lashes. Both b'yad and both b'kli. No, but he's saying, but the Torah is forbidding. The Torah says don't make a cut in your body. The Torah talks about seret and gedidah. That's how the Torah gave the two prohibitions. And we know gedidah is done with a utensil. That's the normal usage of a gedidah. When you take a utensil and he cuts himself. But Shmuel teaches us that not only does gedidah, when the Torah says don't make a gedidah, it refers to a utensil. When the Torah says the word seret, the Torah says don't make a seret in your body. Seret means also a utensil. It means both as well. Seret means your hand or a utensil. So therefore, because he understands that the word means both hand or utensil, so if a guy goes ahead and he uses a utensil, he is violating these two prohibitions in the Torah. Right. So Shmuel is telling us. Shmuel is telling us that he's teaching us that the word seret. Now we didn't see where he proves his point, but Shmuel is teaching us. He's enlightening us how to understand the word of the pasuk of the Torah. The Torah says the word gedidah. We all know gedidah refers to using a utensil. That we all know. That's the given that everybody knows. Shmuel, the great Shmuel, is teaching us that not only does gedidah mean utensil, that even the word when the Torah says seret, when the Torah says the word don't make a cut with a seret, don't do a seret, seret also doesn't only mean your hand, seret also refers to a utensil. That is Shmuel's contribution to us. We would not have known that the word seret refers to a utensil. We would have thought the common usage of the word seret is using one's direct hand, directly. But comes Shmuel and he teaches us seret also refers to the what? To a utensil. So he understands that the Torah, maybe by the fact that the Torah writes in two different languages, described two different ways, the Torah is giving two separate prohibitions. Two for right. Two forget. And Rashi says because it says right. So that again he right. According to this, if he does 5 people and he uses the keli, using utensil.
But he needs his pasuk to be exactly the same. That doesn't work.
But the Gemara did not use an extra pasuk. The Gemara says we have 2 different pasukim. If you also use the pasuk lenefesh for each and lamate to teach you for each and every person that he cuts himself, he gets a separate lashes.
But then save also by you can't use a pasuk in order to save the 5 and the 1.
Okay, so we'll see more tomorrow about Jake's question. It's 37:25, and we'll get to, we'll have to address Jake's question tomorrow. Okay, have a great day, everybody.
Great day,
You're gonna
Rabbi.
see how the Gemara is gonna talk. Are they exactly alike? They're not
Okay,
exactly,
no,
we'll see
no,
more
no,
tomorrow. Have a great
Bye,
day,
Rabbi.
Michael. All the
Thank you
best,
too, Rabbi.
everybody.
You too. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Tu B'Shvat Sameach.
Bitesh, you too, Mr. Bitesh, good to see you. All the best. Have a great day.